Today, I'm going to talk you through the good Christian girl archetype because this is so crucial that you understand that this nice inner good Christian girl can have a huge impact on the amount of income you can access, the amount of influence you can access, and the amount of contribution you can have overall in the world, which means she can cap your full potential. It's huge. All right, let's dive in. You're listening to the Best You Yet podcast. I'm your host, Leah Samara, high-performance strategist and spiritual mentor for coaches, thought leaders, influencers, and CEOs. Each week, we'll dive into deeper conversations and new perspectives on topics impacting female leadership and potential. I'll guide you to expand into the best you yet so you can create the global and generational impact you know you're designed for. Welcome to the deep end. Subscribe so you don't miss a show. This is such an important conversation that I wanted to have with you today because I find so many highly driven female leaders who are amazing, extraordinary at what they do. They still have this good Christian girl archetype that is running some of their life or some of their business. And it's really, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And so I really wanted to give you this very general overview today so that you could see what there is to see, so you could understand exactly how the good Christian girl archetype works. Because I'll have clients that will come to me and they are so extraordinary at what they do, but they're in these behaviors that are creating ceilings in their life, in their relationships, and more specifically in their potential, their contribution, their life's work, and their business. And so it's really frustrating for them because they know something's going on, and they oftentimes invest in high-level, high-ticket coaches and mentors to be able to, help them shift these ceilings, but they oftentimes aren't shifting because the real root cause isn't actually being addressed. Now, the good Christian girl archetype it's an identity. It's an identity that if you have a religious background, more specifically if it was quite a conservative religious background and you are a female, most likely you were brought up to be the good Christian girl. And it's so funny because not funny, haha, funny, interesting. But it's funny because there's no such thing as a good Christian boy archetype. Isn't that fascinating? There's no such thing as a good Christian boy archetype, but there's a good Christian girl archetype. And I do believe that this archetype has been used not by everyone, not by every pastor or every religious person, but I do believe that it has been used by certain people, certain religious people, to suppress women, to stifle women, to keep them silent and small and not living their full potential. Because when a woman is living her full potential, when she can use her voice, when she's not silent, when she does feel free to express herself, she is not controllable, right? And I don't want to get too, I don't like being negative. I don't like speaking negative about, specific religious communities or anything like that, because oftentimes I know people within these communities and they are not doing these things from a place of desiring to control women. They are doing these things because they believe that they're right, or like right as in that it is a good thing, a healthy thing. And so they're doing it from a place of, I want to be doing the right thing. And they're not doing it to intentionally suppress women, but oftentimes we have these behaviors and things that get passed down, these beliefs and these teachings that get passed down from generation to generation in families, but also within systems and communities like church environments. And so oftentimes I don't I don't like to be outwardly negative because I don't oftentimes believe that it is coming from a bad place. However, when we have these teachings and these unhealthy beliefs like the good Christian girl archetype that we are brought up to become, and it's not sit down and Leah, you need to be a good Christian girl. It's just the environment that we absorb. This is who I need to be to get certain things, to get my needs met, to receive love, to receive community, to feel like I belong. And so we become what we think we need to become to be perfect, to receive love. So God will love me, all those kind of things. But what the good Christian girl really is this idealistic, perfectionistic, impossible fantasy. It's this impossible fantasy that we're conditioned to try to become. We're conditioned to try to be this archetype that it's not reality. It doesn't actually exist. And so what it does, it kind of installs this coding into our systems. That's what conditioning is. It's like, when this happens, this is how I respond. So it codes our nervous systems to respond in certain ways. It codes our belief systems, and it has us on autopilot behaving in certain ways from this identity, from the identity of the good Christian girl. And so what this actually does is it just so suppresses women, stifles women's potential. It caps our income, it caps our impact potential, and it really just squashes God's creation. I get kind of emotional when I talk about this, because it really does. It's like God has designed you to be vibrant and to be amazing and to be great and to be extraordinary. He has designed you specifically, uniquely, like down to your fingerprints. That's how unique you are. Yet when we are brought up with these, I do believe it is an evil spiritual movement. Our battle is not against flesh and blood. I believe it is an evil spiritual movement that we have allowed to take place within our religious communities. And we are now seeing the absolutely massive fallout from this teaching, because you have so many women who are now coaches and experts who are listening to me now, and I'm sure you're resonating with this because I have like freaking goosebumps right now. It's like such an evil movement that we've allowed to infiltrate something that could have otherwise been good. You have all these women who are now angry and frustrated and distant from God and disconnected from God, and like seeking out all these other things that are going to make them work so hard to try to be lovable and to try to get God to see them. And it breaks my heart, because it's such a cause and effect kind of thing. If we had have done better back then, we would be in a different place now. And this is why I'm so vocal on this topic, because I believe we can do better. I don't believe the majority of people are intentionally passing on this evil doctrine that is teaching little girls that their value is in this perfectionistic facade. Like, can you feel how evil that is? Like, my body is physically reacting right now, because I'm so passionate about it, number one, but it is just so evil. And I want to call it out for what it is, because I think so often we have this like lollipop and rainbows and like fluffy pink clouds view of this kind of thing. And I really want to call it out for what it actually is. And it is actually an evil spiritual movement that I see moving through religious circles, and more specifically conservative religious circles. And so this archetype is really so that women cannot be who God designed them to be. And when you have a creature or a human being who is not who they are designed to be, that creature is incredibly frustrated and incredibly angry. And so the antidote then is not to be angry at the church and angry. The antidote is to realign yourself with the way that you are designed to be. Gosh, this is taking a different turn than what my notes have, but anyway. It's about realigning yourself with design, with how you were designed to be, realigning yourself with truth. Jesus said the truth sets you free, right? Truth is what sets you free. And so we have to realign back to truth. There's so many coaches that talk about alignment. It's this like buzz fancy word. No, alignment is a really freaking hard word. When you get into the crux of it, you start actually realizing that I don't get to live however I damn well please, because that's not alignment with truth. A train is designed to live on train tracks. That's the best, absolute best thing for it. And a train that goes, F you, train designer, I'm going to go and do whatever the hell I want, goes down the hill and crashes and kills a bunch of people, right? So living in alignment with design can feel challenging at times, but it is the absolute best thing for us. We have to recognize when we are actually reacting internally against these archetypes. So if you were brought up with the good Christian girl archetype, you have to understand and see within yourself when you are reacting to that, because reactivity is an overprotective trauma response to something that shouldn't have been happening. And our systems go, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And that part of you is very accurate, right? That part of you is accurate. That was wrong. It was wrong for you to be brought up to be the good Christian girl, to feel like you had to be stifled and suppressed and silenced and controlled and compliant. That is wrong. But what happens with our systems, and this is a trauma response, our systems jump in and go, well, I'm going to protect me now. And we end up overprotecting ourselves. And that blocks all kinds of things, and it might have served you back then, but it blocks all kinds of incredible things as female entrepreneurs, as female CEOs, leaders. Now it blocks your potential now, that overprotective response. Okay. I'm jumping so far ahead, but there's just so much I want to cover on this topic, and it's probably going to be just this massively general overview, because I just wanted to share so much on my heart on this today, and why I believe what I believe on it, and how it is absolutely capping you. And it frustrates me, because I see so many of you have this extraordinary potential. I can see you writing the books, or being on the TED stage, or launching your podcast, or being a guest on incredible podcasts. Like, I can see it for you. I see your potential, but then I also see this archetype, this good Christian girl stuff getting in the way. And if it's not the good Christian girl stuff getting in the way, it's the overprotective response that's getting in the way, right? So even if you're not in the good Christian girl response, the overprotective response is just as oppressive and damaging and evil. Okay, it's evil because it is our original response, but it has continued even when we haven't needed to use it. And I'm not saying you're evil in your response. I'm saying it's like this evil agenda to get you into this place, right? This evil spiritual agenda. So if you are having the good Christian girl archetype kind of running parts of your life still, running parts of your business, you'll notice that you have generally got this kind of fawn response to confrontation, to controversy. You'll be wanting to be nice a lot, even when you're in a scenario where you know what you believe and you want to take a stand, and even you do take a stand, but it's like your voice is just like and you're frustrated and you're feeling all flustered, and I used to get really red all up my neck, and it like I just felt so not in control of my system, the system that is Leah. So you'll find you'll have this kind of nice response that kind of is automatic and it just switches on, and it's like you don't even have time to interrupt that pattern. And it's like, oh, nice, Leah's here. Oh, this is what we're doing. Right? I've been there. I'm laughing because I've been there, and it sometimes still clicks in to this day, but it is more of a rare occurrence than what it used to be. If you're got the good Christian girl stuff running the ship, it's like it feels hard or challenging to set boundaries. You set them, but it's like it's a real fight to get yourself there. You might take it, then get really frustrated and angry, and then set the boundary. You'll find that you have the standards of how you want to be treated, but you let yourself get treated less than those standards because you don't really want to rock the boat, or like the nice version of you clicks in. You'll find that you're constantly having these feelings of guilt, or I feel greedy if I want more money in my business, or I feel selfish, or other people will think I'm arrogant. Other people will think I'm arrogant if I think that I know what I'm talking about, or express what I'm talking about, or express, especially when it comes to being an authority and an expert in our niche. This is where that arrogance feeling can come up. The way that they try to keep me silent from speaking the truth is that they call me something. That is actually a technique of being able to control someone, is if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to give you a label, a less than desirable label, like you are arrogant. If you don't do what I want, you are arrogant. If you don't listen to me, you are arrogant. If you don't take in my advice, you are arrogant, right? Never mind the fact that that person hasn't earned their place to speak into your life, or earned the right to speak into your life, or even that you have given them that position, because that's a position that we give people, right? The right to speak into our lives. The other thing is we feel like we're too much at times. It's like, oh, I need to kind of not be so loud, or not be so funny, or not draw so much attention to myself. Is any of this ringing a bell? Is any of this like feeling like, oh my goodness, this is the thing. This is the thing. That's how I want you to feel, because it's like, I want you to understand how this archetype has potentially been steering you in a direction that is not you. It's not your authentic self. And so what we have to do is actually really individuating from like identifying that this is actually a part of us. It's not all of us. We are not the good Christian girl. We were conditioned to be her, but that is not who I am. And so therefore I get to have that distance, and I get to step away from her, and I get to have that space so that I can then make more authentic, aligned decisions based on who I am and who I am becoming, which is, I talk about the good Christian girl versus the queen, and how the queen stands in her personal sovereignty. She stands for what matters and what's important, and she does set boundaries, and she does have limits and high standards of, if people want to be in her world, this is the standard that you have to, approach me with or treat me with, right? And so it's like the good Christian girl archetype comes with such an impossible perfectionistic fantasy. Like, do you guys remember that movie, I think it's called The Stepford Wives? If you haven't seen it, go and watch it through this lens, through the good Christian girl lens, because it so just gives you the willies, right? Like, I even feel a little bit sick talking about it, because it just kind of gives me the willies. Like, if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. But it's pretty much this movie about how all these men create these perfect wives to kind of like obey them and be perfect, the perfect size, the perfect breast size and long hair, and like it's like Barbie doll, and it's totally creepy. But it's like, it's kind of like that. It's like this good Christian girl archetype is this impossible fantasy. It's like, even if we tried our whole lives to become this perfectionistic good Christian girl, like, we would never get there. You literally, it's like a goal that you can never reach. And so it's like being the horse or the donkey with the thing out with the carrot dangling in front of it. Every time you move forward, the carrot gets further and further away. It's just this impossible thing that you're never going to reach. But it's like with when we have the good Christian girl archetype, it's like we're instilling these beliefs that like when I reach that good Christian girl archetype, like everyone will finally love me and adore me and see me and know me and hear me. Or when I reach that archetype, then I'll receive love. Then my parents will love me. Then the people around me will love me. Then everyone will know how amazing I am. Then I'll be seen and I'll be validated. Then I'll be adored. And if you want to take it a level further, this is why it is a religious line of thinking. It's works based, right? Good Christian girl is like, when I work hard enough, when I perform, when I achieve, then God will finally see me. Then God will finally love me, right? Evil. It's an evil agenda. It's an evil religious agenda. The good Christian girl always comes with rules. There's always rules attached to this. And as adults, if this is a part of our automatic response to life, when we are breaking one of these rules in our nervous systems, in our physical bodies, we feel it. We feel that guilt. We feel it in our chest, that anxiety. I'm being naughty. I'm doing something wrong. I've left the identity of who I should be to get love, to get all those things that I listed before, right? Are you feeling it? It's really strong. It's really freaking strong. And so this all comes with rules. The good Christian girl rules are things like good Christian girls don't get divorced. Good Christian girls are silent. Good Christian girls are compliant. Good Christian girls are submissive. Good Christian girls believe that their value is in service. They become the eternal server, the eternal giver. Good Christian girls always put themselves last. Good Christian girls are never controversial. They're not opinionated. Good Christian girls don't think highly of themselves. They pretend, right? We all got to pretend to be something we're not. We all got to pretend that we don't see that we're amazing at certain things, right? There's all these rules. There's all these rules that we have to comply with. And so as adults, when we are these entrepreneurial women or these highly driven CEOs, we need to take a stand and become the queen and really own our personal sovereignty. Of course, if we have this automatically going on in our subconscious mind, then we are going to feel like, oh my goodness, I'm doing something wrong when I say all the, do you know how, do you guys realize how much work I have done on myself to get me to a point where I'm so liberated and unleashed to say what I'm saying to you on this podcast episode? This podcast episode is going to be public and anybody is going to be able to listen to it, to critique it. Anybody is going to be able to say anything. And I have had to get myself to a point, and this is why I teach what I teach to my clients. I teach you how to become unleashed, how to say what you really want to say. But it has taken time. It has taken work. It has taken me following the specific exact process to reclaim my personal sovereignty, to get to a place where I can speak these truths to you right now. And your clients, your followers, your sphere of influence, your bloodline needs you to be unleashed at the exact same level, or if not more than what I am. There's still more for me to go. I'm not done yet. Watch out. Watch this space. Are you feeling me? Because of course it feels wrong when we want to be unleashed. It feels so wrong in every fiber of our being because we have been conditioned to believe it is wrong with every fiber of our being, right? So the process then has to become a deconditioning process. Because if you don't, you're just going to feel so frustrated and you're going to feel the resentment that could have, developed early on is just backpiling, right? Is just piling up, all this anger, all this frustration. And oftentimes what happens is we end up pointing that internally. We end up with a really loud inner critic every time we don't take the steps that we want to take, or we make decisions that are misaligned with who we really are or who we know we're born to be. we end up feeling so resentful and so frustrated within ourselves that then that creates this whole other host of issues, like health issues. Our physical bodies respond to how we feel about ourselves, and then we end up with all sorts of things. I've had thyroid issues, autoimmune disease stuff, pain, anxiety, depression, complex PTSD. We end up with this host of things that are like all these unresolvable things that doctors are like, I don't know how to resolve it other than to give you a tablet, right? And it's all this stuff. It is all this stuff. Because once you get there, guys, looking back, it has taken me so long to launch this podcast. And that has nothing to do with strategy. We know it, right? It's got nothing to do with strategy. When I first tried to launch this podcast, I got so sick. I ended up with my autoimmune disease flared up again. Supposedly, that's how they language it. Drama. But what was really going on was subconsciously, it was like, I can't put stuff publicly online that goes against every fiber of my being, that goes against this conditioning, this good Christian girl conditioning. I can't not be nice. I have to be the good Christian girl. And so it requires a whole massive identity shift so that we can be who we are born to be. And just the level of triumph, like utter triumph you feel when you do show up as your most potent, ruthlessly authentic self who is out in the world, doing your life's work, working with people that light you up and energize you and excite you, and doing the work that you're born to release into the world. It is so liberating, and it feels so triumphant, like you've conquered Mount Everest. I have no idea what that feels like, but I kind of do, because I launched this. And this was something that was heavily on my heart to launch, this Best You Yet podcast, but it was such an Everest that I had to climb to become who I needed to be able to launch this work and to unleash myself, unleash my voice and my vibrance, and stand in and really own my value so that I could come to you today and share this with you. I was so scared. What are all these different people going to think? What are my family going to think? My parents going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are religious people in my past going to think? What are previous pastors going to think? What about people who have spiritually abused me and who have abused me? Ex-partners who are abusive, all these things. I was so consumed by the fear of what they were going to think if I didn't stay in my box that they had portioned out for me. If I left the confines of the good Christian girl identity and I just showed up in the world and I be who I was designed to be all along, like what are the reactions going to be? So that becomes the how then, right? That becomes the next step, is how do I unleash who I really am on the world? How do I stop being the good Christian girl? How do I stop her from ruining my life, right? But really it's you. It's all your conditioning. It's fully within your dominion. If it was in my dominion, it's within yours to be able to decondition and then recondition really healthy patterns, really authentic truths about who you are, and become that really the sovereign queen. Because we have to understand that life is not about rules, and the good Christian girl has constantly followed rules. Rules have meant safety, and so when we're becoming our authentic selves, it's like there's no rules anymore. And so often when I'm working with clients, it's like having them feel safe without rules, having them feel safe trusting themselves and backing themselves and really trusting their intuition is a huge part of this work. So the how question is answered when we actually understand how to decondition the identity of the good Christian girl so that we no longer relate to her. She is not fused with me. I am not enmeshed with this fantasy version of me that doesn't actually exist. And I actually not just understand in my mind, in my conscious mind, that she is not who I am, but really embodying that. And that takes subconscious work. It takes some really really clear strategic plan about how to become the best version of you, so that you know the gap between where you are now and who you want to be, and exactly what are the bottlenecks that are in between, like the good Christian girl identity, and how to untangle from her so that you're not enmeshed with an identity that just is a perfectionistic facade that is from, is really birthed through a really evil spiritual movement to get us hating ourselves, hating each other, and hating God at the end of the day. Right? I don't even think I need to say any more than that. I'm feeling like that's pretty me wrapped up. I feel so powerfully that this is the next thing. This is the thing that I really am ready to receive freedom from, so that I can be that unleashed, potent, sovereign queen that I was born to be. And I can be out in the world creating, amazing things, living my life's work, and just living, really creating the contribution that you were born for, and that I believe you're really designed for, as the amazing, extraordinary, God-designed human being that you are, down to your very fingertips. There's so much that you have to contribute to the world, not because your value is in serving, but because you are amazing just by being you. So that wraps me up today. I'm super excited about this episode. Please, if you've received anything, go and leave a review, because that really helps this podcast get seen, get found by the people like you that it will really impact most and that will matter most to. So you go out and you be extraordinary, and I can't wait to chat to you next week. Thanks for joining me for this expansive session. Make sure you hit the subscribe or follow button so you don't miss a show. It would feel so good if you took a quick second to give the Best You Yet podcast a rating and a review. To leave a review and rating in iTunes, just click the reviews tab, and in Spotify, go to the main podcast page and tap the 3 horizontal lines under the podcast cover image. Now, go out into the world and be the incredible masterpiece that you are. I'll see you in the next episode.
Best you yet.
The best you yet.
The best you yet.
Best you yet. Best you yet. Best you yet.